Hi, and welcome on Coin Money Network. Considering that Bitcoin has grown so much, as you can see, Bitcoin is skyrocketing right now. We need to be careful what we are doing, especially that Bitcoin hits over $10,000. What's next? Bitcoin will crash coming 2018 is a question that many ask themselves. So we have to hear and consider what those with experience in the field have to say. So, on the channel Financial Education and Chris Dunn channel, I did find some good explanation. You can find the links of the channels in the description below. Thanks. And I wish you all the best to you and your family, and to prosper financially, and get the best results in 2018. So, now let's hear what tips and guidance others with experience in the field have to tell us.
And in this video, I'm going to be talking about what that means, analyze some of the trends, and give you some predictions for what I think is going to happen next. So if we take a look at coin market cap, and if you go to Bitcoin, you'll notice that the price is showing over $10,000 right now. And now what's interesting is it actually hit 10,000 on the Korean exchange first. And you can see that GDAX and Bitfinex are still shy of 10,000. This is the most insane bull market that I have ever seen in the past 15 years of being involved in the financial markets. It's just been an incredible year. And as you probably know by now, Bitcoin is up over 1,000% from the beginning of the year, where we started off around $1,000. And today we're up around $10,000. So just really, really incredible. And where a couple of years ago people thought we were crazy, today everybody is buying in. And so what I want to do is show you the market structure from this year, meaning analyze the trend, what's happened, do a couple of measurements, and that'll help me show you what I think is going to happen next. So if we go back to where this trend actually began, just to put this into some perspective, back in 2015, Bitcoin was basically flat. It was around $200, which is pretty hard to believe for a lot of people that are new. But around this time, this was a great time to accumulate Bitcoin. But the problem is nobody really cared. There were so many Bitcoin obituaries. And then in November of 2015, so about 2 years ago, Bitcoin pumped from about $250 to $500 and then crashed very quickly. Now, this was kind of spurred by a Ponzi scheme, the MMM Ponzi scheme that a lot of you OGs might remember. But what happened from there is that put us into about a 6-month consolidation pattern where we gained about 50%, right? About a 50% range. And that lasted for a little over 200 days, right? And then what happened there? From there, that's where the trend really started to take off. We did another move, this time about a 70% move, moved up into the $800 range, and that lasted for a little bit less, right? It was still over 200 days, but about a week short of the prior market structure channel. And then from there, when we first went into 2017, price went above 1,000 for the first time since 2014. So that was a pretty big deal. And you'll notice right here at the time, this was actually a really big move, right? And I did a video right here after the price crashed. It was kind of a clickbaity title because I wanted a lot of people to see what was happening. And the video, I think, was titled, "Is Bitcoin Crashing?" And my message was essentially, guys, don't freak out. This is just the start of something. And I went on to analyze the 7 steps of a trend. And turns out the people that didn't freak out and held from this level now made a 10x return on their money. So pretty incredible. But that led us into just another market structure channel, this time again about 65%. So you'll notice every time the market breaks out into another trend, it typically goes up about 50 to 75%. And you'll notice this time, though, where it was previously over 200 days each time, this was significantly less. That only lasted for about 120 days. And then things really got smoking in the spring here. And the next channel lasted for about 80 days, and that was just shy of a 60% move. And then when we first tested 5,000, that was a 65% gain, and that lasted for only 68 days or so. So you'll notice the times are getting compressed here. The gains percentage-wise are about the same, but the time is getting compressed. And then most recently, we saw a price go from 5 to 8,000, again, about a 60-something% gain, and that only lasted about 38 days. And then recently, over the past week or so, as we broke up above 8,000, you'll notice that if we do what the market has been doing, right? And again, I don't try to pick tops. I'm a bull until the trend is over. But if the market structure remains in this form and it keeps putting this pattern in, then that means if we're slicing the time by about half, that means over the next 2 to 3 weeks, if we put in a 50 to 60% gain, we could see prices anywhere in between 11 to 13,000, right? Somewhere in this range. On the low side, 11, on the higher side, 13,000. So right now, however, we have price action that's basically going parabolic, meaning it's just every day green after green after green. And eventually what's going to happen is that's going to become unsustainable, right? Like at some point, the market cycle is going to shift, and the market typically goes into 3 phases. Okay, this happens with stocks, this happens with all currencies, gold, any market or any stock or any financial instrument that has an early trend that eventually goes parabolic does this 3-phase pattern. The first phase is 3 phases in a long-term trend. The first phase is a strong trend where you get runs and retracements and you have that market structure that's very clear. And this has been the most beautiful bull market I've ever seen ever. And so what typically happens after that, though, is after the market takes the stairs up, it takes the elevator down. And in a fraction of the time that it took to make those gains, you typically see a big washout in between 50 to 75%. Now, some comment heroes might be going, oh, well, Chris is trying to pick a top or say for the end of Bitcoin. Guys, listen, I am bullish long-term on Bitcoin, but I realize that the market goes in cycles. And when things become unsustainable, you get these pullbacks. Case in point, as I talk about in some of my last videos, Bitcoin has had a half a dozen pullbacks this year of over 30%. When you think about that on a market cap or a dollar basis, that is billions of dollars in the course of 1 to 3 days that gets wiped out on these pullbacks. The difference with Bitcoin is, at least so far with this market structure, is every dip gets bought up because that's been what's working. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy until it stops working. And so what could happen is if we measure from the beginning of the year, which is really where things got smoking for this trend, if we measure just on a percentage basis, you'll notice that that is over 1,000% gain, right? And what happened is if we measure a fib retracement from the low to the high, I like to focus on what I call the sweet spot, which is in between the 38% retracement and the 61% retracement. So if we do get, and again, this is where the price is right now, you won't know where the top is until after the fact, until it shows the V top. So it could be much further up. This could be the top, but I think we have more to go. If we get a pullback, that's kind of the area that you would expect to see price land, right? And we saw that back in 2014, where when price went from 100 to over 1,000, you can see the first washout was a 3-day slide and bounced right there inside of that sweet spot. And then we actually got a secondary washout that tested the 78% retracement. And then the third phase, after you have the strong stair-stepping trend that we've had for a full 2 years now, if we get a pullback inside of the sweet spot retracement zone, that's likely going to give some really good opportunity for maybe a bounce play, at least on a swing basis, like we saw in 2014, had a couple of really nice bounce plays. And what typically follows that is wild volatility, where you're going to see a battle, and where we've had just a really beautiful kind of straight trend for a couple of years now, I think, especially with Bitcoin CME futures coming out in the next week or two, that's going to add a whole new dynamic, because Wall Street is stepping into the Bitcoin sphere in a really big way with these futures contracts. And I think what that's going to do is add even more volatility into the next like 6 to 12 months, even with the CME claiming that they're going to quote unquote tame Bitcoin and reduce the volatility. My guess is in the short term, it's actually going to increase the volatility. So I think that's going to be great for traders, and I think it's going to be something that people that are just chasing highs are going to have to contend with. With that said, guys, that's kind of what I'm looking at. I'm measuring these market structure patterns, and I think we are getting in that unsustainable territory. But that's why one of my last videos I said actually dips and crashes in the price are healthy for Bitcoin, because a market can't just go straight up. You need that selling pressure to refresh and get new money into a market. So I'm actually going to be doing a live market class this Thursday. It's kind of an interesting time where we have the CME futures about to launch. Here we are around this 10,000 price level. So anytime we get around like a major inflection point, I like to do live webinars to kind of talk about what's happening and hopefully catch some live market action and answer all your questions. So I'll link that up in the description. If you got some value from this video, throw me a thumbs up, share it with somebody that might get some value out of it, and I'll see you guys
Now
very
let's
soon.
hear
Take
the
care.
guy from Financial Education. What have to say about Bitcoin? It will crash coming 2018 or not?
I saw something today in regards to Bitcoin that really scared me. It really scared me, guys. And we got to discuss this. But we got to kind of discuss, like, is Bitcoin going to crash in 2018? Is this going to happen? Or are we going to have some negative things happen? I'm going to show you guys a lot of things that will kind of open up your mind to kind of see in both angles of it why Bitcoin might not crash and why Bitcoin could crash in 2018. Kind of explore this. And Bitcoin, something, you know, in cryptocurrencies in general, is something that I used to not like to talk about at all, because people would always request it, and I was like, I don't really want to talk about it. Now I really love to talk about it. One, because there's so much interest in it. Two, because I don't have a stake either way in this game. I'm not short Bitcoin. I don't even know if there's a way you can short cryptocurrencies and things like that. I'm sure there is. I haven't looked into it. But I'm not short anything. I'm not short any stocks that are related to Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. At the same time, I'm not long. So I'm completely unbiased in this whole game. I'm just kind of looking at it from my perspective as an innocent bystander and just watching all this, and you know, I know a lot of history of the markets and different things that have happened and whatnot. And like I said, I saw something today that really scared me, guys. So let's look at this here. So if we see here, Bitcoin has hit a record high after passing $9,000, and it's close to reaching 5 figures as investors in the cryptocurrency shrug off warnings of a bubble. The cryptocurrency rose to an all-time high of $9,700 on Monday. It's now worth more than 7 times an ounce of gold, which is seen as the safe haven in times of turmoil. And by the way, Bitcoin's up well over 1,000% this year, guys. It's absolutely insane. Now, this guy kind of has a negative perspective on it. Wilson added, but for traditionalists, it's hard to fathom. Rather than a commodity or currency, Bitcoin is like owning a stock in a company that will issue 21 million shares and will never ever pay a dividend. The only way and this is a quote from him, the only way it has value is if the next guy is willing to pay more for it. The greater fool with no intrinsic value to Bitcoin. It's hard to see this as anything other than a giant speculation bubble, he says here. We look at the value of Bitcoin, it's just been extraordinary over the past few years, specifically since around 2015 time. I mean, look at that chart. It's absolutely amazing here. And we'll get to the scary part here in just a second, guys. But I do want to kind of address his point there, which was Bitcoin, you're never going to get something back for that other than what the other person is willing to pay for it. Depending on what the other person is willing to pay for it is what you get back in return. It's different than most investment asset classes when you look at something as an investment purpose, right? If you look at a stock, okay, let's say a stock, for whatever reason, you hold the stock for 5 years and it doesn't go up in value. It's still the same value, or maybe it's even less. Well, the company hopefully is making good profits, so then you say, well, what the hell? I don't know why our stocks isn't going up. Let's pay out a bunch of money to you in dividends, so at least you get payment somehow, okay? That's how stocks work. Real estate, okay? Let's say for some reason your house doesn't go up in value. You hold it for 10 years, you buy this house, it doesn't go up in value, right? Well, what can you do with that house? You can go rent it to somebody else and you can make some type of income. You make some type of cash flow coming back to you. If you own a business, right, and you want to sell that business and no one wants to buy your business, right? Well, hopefully that business is making profits for you and so you're getting a positive cash flow back from your business. Bitcoin is not like that at all. Bitcoin, the only way you hope that it's worth more is if the other person's willing to pay more in the future. It's never going to pay you out money back to it unless somebody else pays you back money for that in the future. Okay, it's very similar to gold almost in that sense, right? Except gold actually has some value as far as like people actually wearing it as jewelry and whatnot. But for instance, gold, the only way you're going to make more money on gold is if the next guy's willing to pay more for that gold than what you paid for that gold. Okay, so that's very interesting. Now the thing that really scared me here, guys, I saw something that I'm like, this is freaking scary. Buy Bitcoin with credit card is on the rise on Google, sparking bubble fears. The Google search term, quote, buy Bitcoin with credit card is around its historic peak as price scales to new high. Other search trends show that Bitcoin holds a solid lead in Google quest for digital currencies, even though it has a growing list of competitors. But Mitchell Goldberg, a client-first strategy, says that Bitcoin craze is a sign that we've entered the final and stupidest part of the bull market, he says, okay? He says that now on the opposite end here, this guy named Jeff Morris Jr., I believe he works at Tinder, I want to say. He says most of the smartest thinkers I know in the cryptocurrency space are in the cryptocurrency space. You can call this a bubble, or you can educate yourself and try to understand why so many brilliant people are dedicating their lives to this emerging field. And then there's the opposite side of the spectrum here, which is this guy comes out and he says, Bitcoin's market cap has passed Disney. Yes, Disney, Mickey Mouse, Frozen, Star Wars, Marvel, Pixar, ABC, ESPN, 12 theme parks, 51 resorts, 387 stores, 195,000 employees, $55 billion in revenues, and now Bitcoin now has a bigger market cap than Disney. That's crazy, guys. Bitcoin has gone parabolic, and that usually doesn't end well, Art Cashin says. I think we're in the stage of basically we're in the fear of missing out phase, he says. Now, I just want to point you out one more thing, and then we're going to kind of take all this into account here. This was the NASDAQ, okay? This was the NASDAQ. If we look here, in 1995, the NASDAQ was under 1,000 points, all right? Over the next 5 years, the NASDAQ rose to around 5,000. I don't know why this chart doesn't show it all the way to 5,000. I believe it hit 5,000 or something very close to 5,000 in the year 2000, right? Within 2 years, the NASDAQ had fallen under 1,500, okay? Now, why do I bring up the NASDAQ in relation to this Bitcoin and all this talk? The reason I bring it up is because a lot of the same things that happened during that time are happening now as far as what people are saying on both sides of the fence, all right? So basically, what you had in the NASDAQ bubble, right, the tech bubble as it's called, is you had a lot of people, especially a lot of younger people and a lot of fund managers just funneling money into this like crazy. It was the new thing. Tech companies were the new thing, all right? And what we had is we had people on both sides. We had the older, more traditionalist people saying, that's a bubble over there you guys got going on. Like, that's crazy. You got multi-billion dollar valuations on tech companies that haven't even sold anything. Like, your numbers are crazy over there. It's a bubble. And you had a lot of younger people and some people who were just trying to make some money in general, right? And they just wanted to hop on the hot trend. They're saying, no, you don't understand over there. This is the new thing. This is going to be huge. You don't understand. We're not in a bubble at all. The NASDAQ's going to 10,000. The NASDAQ's going to 10,000 next year or the year after. We're just going to keep going up. And you had these guys over there, the more older people saying, no, you're crazy. And who ended up being wrong? Obviously, in the short term, these people were 100% wrong. It took over a decade. It took well over a decade for the NASDAQ to ever even get up to the point where it was in the year 2000. It took like, I think, around 14 years, guys, around 14 years. So the young crowd, the tech crowd, they were 100% right, as in this is going to change the world. This is life-changing stuff, the whole technology world. They were 100% right on the long term. They were 100% wrong on the short term as far as they were in a huge bubble and they were contributing to this huge bubble, and that huge bubble popped. Now, as far as Bitcoin, will this bubble pop in 2018? Is this going to happen? Who knows? I wish I knew. If I knew, I would be placing bets against this whole deal, right? I just don't know, because the thing you need for a bubble to pop really is you need a lot of fear to come in the market, and generally speaking you need the economy to go bad, okay? When you get something to pop, you need the economy to go bad. In the year 2000 we actually started having some economic troubles here in the States and a little bit around the world, and that kind of helped it lead into the tech bubble, and then that just fostered more and more fear out there, and then we saw what happened with the tech bubble. So we would really need to have something bad happen in the economy, in my opinion, for that bubble to really pop, which pop means it goes down like more than 50%, okay? In order for it to go down 50%, I'm not talking about like Bitcoin went down 10% this week or something. That's like little stuff, right? If we really need Bitcoin to go way down 50% plus, you really got to talk about something bad happening in the economy, okay? Because if something bad happens in the economy, you got people that are potentially buying things on credit cards. That was the scariest part. When you see search terms like people are trying to get into this any way possible. Like I talk to so many people who are involved and just know stuff about money, right? And they're all like, oh, Bitcoin, why didn't I get in Bitcoin? I'm so stupid, forgot getting in Bitcoin. Bitcoin keeps going up. I need to get in this. Like, how do I get in this? You got people that don't even have the money to stick into it now, trying to take money out on credit cards, trying to take loans to put into Bitcoin, trying to margin, do whatever is possible. That is so scary, guys. That is so scary to me, because that is like bubble 101 right there. When you got people trying to leverage money, just trying to get in there any way possible, it's the scariest thing out there, especially when it's happening in mass, which if you look at these search terms, it's happening in mass. 3% of all searches that are related to Bitcoin, or how do I invest in Bitcoin on a credit card, guys. 3%. That's a massive amount of people. Think about how many people are searching out Bitcoin each and every day. Like, I can't go anywhere without people talking about Bitcoin. And think about how many people search the term Bitcoin in Google a day. 3% of those is like, how do I buy Bitcoin on credit card, guys? That's really scary stuff. So watch yourself out there. Watch yourself 100%. Because if the bubble does pop, right, if this thing goes down, right, who knows how long it will take. You might be waiting a long, long time. The people that were in the NASDAQ in 2000, right, and mind you, the NASDAQ didn't even go up close to as much as Bitcoin. The NASDAQ went from what, a little under 1,000 to around 5,000 over a 5-year span. We're talking about the Bitcoin has gone up well over 1,000% in a year. Okay, mind you, that's like way bigger numbers than what was going on in the tech bubble as far as the rate of appreciation, right? It's not even comparable. So you watch yourself out there, guys, because even if you're bullish long term, even if Bitcoin's going to be here to stay, which it probably will, okay, doesn't mean you will get your return on investment anytime soon if this thing goes down. If this thing goes down, you might be waiting a decade, 2 decades before you even get back to the price that it was at when you originally bought it. So just be careful out there, guys. Be careful. Watch yourself at all times, because you never know what can happen. But once again, like, in my opinion, it's going to take something to happen in the economy for everything to go down. And mind you, by the way, those fund managers, when those fund managers have to start selling positions because the economy is going south and whatnot, when they have to start selling off things, the first thing they're selling off is cryptocurrencies. I 100% guarantee you that. If they have to pick, am I going to sell my Apple and Samsung stock, or am I going to sell Bitcoin and, this other cryptocurrency we have investments in? They're selling Bitcoin, they're selling the other thing. They're not freaking selling Apple and Samsung and Google stock and Amazon stock, the things that run the world, okay? They're selling off the cryptocurrencies first and foremost. Hope you guys enjoyed this day. Let me know your opinion in that comment section. Do you guys think we'll have a Bitcoin crash in 2018? You think it's smooth sailing? What type of performance do you think Bitcoin's going to have in 2018? You think it's going to go up another 1,000%, or you think it's going to be a more modest, like 50% gain or something like that, which is still insane, or 100% gain? I would love to know what you guys think in the comments. I love reading, perspectives from people on the fence about it, people who are against it, people who are all for it. I love reading it all, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great